Hello friends, and welcome to my Easter video. This is such a beautiful celebration, so when my Patreon supporter asked me if I would be doing an Easter video, I jumped at the opportunity. I know a lot of people are suffering with the high cost of food these days, so I wanted to try to make a nice meal that was as inexpensive as possible. My goal is to spend $15 or less, but I know that might be difficult to do. I'll probably need to choose between either dinner and dessert or dinner and an appetizer. But that's okay because my family never eats all three. I think the only time I've ever included appetizers was when I was entertaining a large group of people, in which case you can always ask your guests to bring a dish. The key to keeping my costs down will be getting my meat course as cheap as possible, and for that, there's no better place to go than Aldi. I started at home by looking at their current weekly ad, and even though I didn't see anything too exciting, I do expect to find more deals at the store. I did notice that they have a yellow cake mix for 79 cents, which is a great deal, so the wheels in my head are turning on what I could do with that. I also checked out some other grocery store sale ads and found this pork loin roast for $1.99 a pound, which means I would probably be able to get enough for 4 people with between $5 and $6, which is not a bad deal and fits into our budget. So if I don't find something at Aldi, I'll get this. Another store had boneless pork loin chops for $3.99 a pound, which is an okay deal. Pork chops would make a great Easter dinner. I could either pan fry those or make a smothered pork chop, which is basically a pork chop cooked in gravy. But I've been cooking gravy quite a bit on my channel lately, so I'll probably pass on that. It's amazing how elegant a fresh herb makes a piece of meat. It's like the lady or gentleman in the room, if you will. But fresh herbs do add to the budget. Anyway, before I run into Aldi, I'm going to check out Dollar Tree. I don't think I'll be buying anything for my decor this year. I'll be using what I have at home and repurposing a few items. However, I would like some light green napkins, and if I see something I just can't live without, then I'll get it. I love these two colors together, but I was envisioning a little bit lighter green, kind of like the plate, but these napkins seem to be a darker green. Not seeing too much. These flowers are lovely, but I think I have enough at home. I couldn't find plain light green napkins anywhere. My goal for this dinner is understated elegance. I want it to be white with just a small pop of color in pastel green and light pink. And I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't find my napkins. There was a golf cart parked next to Aldi. There's a senior community nearby, and lots of people drive their golf carts around. Every time I see one of these, all I want to do is get in it and take off. I've always wanted to drive a golf cart. I wonder if I could pay for golf time and then just drive the cart around. But I digress. Let's get into Aldi and find out exactly what kind of deals they have that's going to help us make our Easter meal. I'm going straight for the meat section because even though I'm shopping early in the morning, I know that they'll sell out early on their best deals. I'm thinking that one of our best options for meat would be to purchase some ham steaks, but I'm going to look at their smaller hams just to see what prices they are, and this is almost $18 for such a small amount. This is $30. You could feed one person for a week on that. And this one's $14.88. That's our entire budget, so that's going to be a hard no. Okay, let's see what else they have. No. This chicken is in the $6 range, so that's a great deal. And I just noticed while editing this video that one of these chickens was 50% off. It must have been getting close to the sell by date. That might be a really great strategy to get a good deal on chicken for your Easter dinner, but you might need to get it early and then put it in the freezer. I've made a lot of chickens on my channel. I did one on Thanksgiving that was delicious. Probably the best chicken that I've ever made for my family. So if you want to do a chicken for Easter, you might want to check out that video. I'll put a link to that in the description area of this video. But I want to do something different. And there's really only a few things that are going to fall into my $5 to $6 price range. Okay, here are the pork loins, and their price matches the on-ad sale at the other store, and these aren't even on ad. So that's what I'm saying. Aldi has such a good price on most of its meats that even if it's something not on ad, you can find selections that match or beat other stores. This is definitely an option here. These are in the $5 range. These are pre-seasoned, either lemon garlic or barbecue, but if you wanted to, you could rinse these off. You would be able to slice this and feed quite a few people. That would be nice served with a gravy, or maybe like a cranberry sauce or another type of a berry sauce. However, I do kind of have my heart set on ham steaks, so I'm hoping to find those. Of course, my family would love it if I made carnitas for Easter, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with something traditional because I'm making this dinner for you. That being said, that is an excellent deal for that, and you know, when you make the carnitas and shred it up, it goes a really long way, and I'm sure that there's lots of families that would be delighted to get to eat carnitas for Easter. I was happy to see that they have these large ham steaks for $5. Since I'm serving some other courses and I also plan to make dessert, I should be able to cut this into 4 pieces and have it be enough. They also had some other packages in this ham section, but they were too expensive. Now that I've secured my ham, it's time to think about sides, and I think potatoes au gratin are a natural accompaniment. I've been thinking about potatoes ever since I made those delicious scallop potatoes. I've taken a lot of shortcuts with that recipe in the past, but it's so much better when you just take your time and make out the sauce. Those were so good. I would love to make a huge tray of those and add either a Gruyere or a sharp cheddar. My family would really like that. They wanted more of those, but there just wasn't enough. But these are very high, and that's a good portion of our budget. So I'm going to look around because not only would I need to buy the potatoes for that, but then I'd also need to buy the cheese. I could just buy 2 of these potatoes. That would be a little bit less, but I'm not sure that would be enough. I spotted this date syrup that they were advertising as low glycemic. I thought that was interesting since we've been talking about dates lately. However, it doesn't seem like syrup would be as low glycemic as the real thing. This yellow cake mix is supposed to be 79 cents, but the sign wasn't reflecting that, so I'll have to make sure it rings up properly. I've been thinking about maybe using this to make a dump cake with berries. I've never made one before, and one of my viewers told me about it, and I've been wanting to try it ever since. I'm secretly hoping it's going to taste a lot like the bread pudding I made with those frozen berries. That was so good, and I just love desserts that contain fruit. Hoping we can find some that aren't too expensive. I'm also keeping my eye out for inexpensive appetizers. The spinach and cheese phyllo blossoms looked kind of interesting, and those were $4. It would be nice for me to add an appetizer to this video just to give some options, but I want to make something that's exciting, and so far I haven't thought of anything that I want to make. I headed back to Dollar Tree to look for some frozen berries to go in my dump cake. I'm thinking I'll get the best deal here. I couldn't find any raspberries, so I picked up the blueberries at Dollar Tree and then went back to Aldi to grab some fresh berries. I really wanted a mix of blackberries and raspberries, but they were all too expensive, so I ended up just getting the raspberries. And as it stands already, I feel like I'm spending a little bit too much on this dessert. However, if it's really tasty, it could be the star of the show, in which case I'll be grateful that I spent this money. When I saw these pre-packaged mashed potatoes, I realized this would be much less expensive than buying the potatoes. Plus, it's going to make putting together dinner so much easier. They also have the macaroni and cheese, but I'm definitely in the mood for potatoes. If you need to slash some more out of the budget, you can always substitute instant here. Later on in the video, I'll share some options on how to dress up these store-bought potatoes. This might just be the easiest dinner I've ever made on my channel. However, we are going to dress these ingredients up. For my dump cake, I'll also be using this lemon. I'm adding that onto the budget. I'll use half in my dessert and half for the asparagus. Before I get started on my meal, I want to set my table. I have these tulips that are always sitting next to my bed. They feel like springtime and Easter to me, so I thought I'd try to incorporate them somehow into my decor. I picked these up at IKEA about a year ago. I'm just going to clean these up and they'll be like new. I have this yellow tablecloth that also seems like spring to me, but it's much brighter than it appears on the video, so it just wasn't the vibe I was going for. I think that the centerpiece is going to be underwhelming. I liked my centerpiece from the last holiday video so well that I didn't disassemble it. The scale is so much better for this table. I'm wondering if I could just incorporate the tulips somehow without cutting the stems, because when Easter is over, this is going back in my room. I could even use these to decorate my candlesticks. That's kind of pretty actually. So the rule is that your centerpiece should either be lower than head height or higher so that you can see your guests while you're talking. And I love the dramatic look of a raised centerpiece, but I'm gonna need to upgrade my base. First, I'll make the dump cake. I'm just wondering whether I should make it in individual serving sizes or in a big pan. I have enough of the small dishes, if I combine them, that I could use those, and I think that looks fine, but I think for this, I'm going to go ahead and use a large pan since I rarely do that. I found this recipe on Betty Crocker and it called for a half cup sugar, but I was noticing that some of the reviews said it was too sweet. Since the yellow cake already has plenty of sugar in it, I don't see any reason to add any more. The recipe also called for 3/4 cup butter. I don't always add in butter when a recipe calls for it, but I am going to add it in here. If there's ever a time for butter, then it's going to be during a holiday celebration. I have a feeling that this would have been okay without it. If anybody has tried this with oil, please leave a comment and let us know how it turned out. Fortunately, I did find an appetizer recipe that I was excited about. I found this on Cookie and Kate. I'll put a link to the original recipe. This was created from the TikTok feta pasta trend last year. Basically, it's taking similar ingredients and making it into a dip. I already had most of these ingredients on hand, so this worked out for me. Plus, I wanted to add an appetizer onto this video just in case some of my regular viewers that have a little bit higher budgets wanted to make something new this year. This can also be made without the olives to save money. This is ready to go in the oven. I'm going to save some of the olives to top it at the very end, and I'll chop up this basil right before I dress it. And once I stir this all up, I don't want the colors becoming muted. I splurged a little on these asparagus. I could have gotten a canned vegetable for 50 cents, but we'll really enjoy these. First, I'll cut the woody ends off, just demonstrating this in case any of my viewers have never done this before. But the lower end of the asparagus is very tough. I've done this enough to know, just by the feel of my knife, where it needs to be cut to, and sometimes I'll make 2 or 3 cuts. You can always save the ends to make a soup with. I'm just going to sprinkle this with olive oil and garlic salt, and then I'll pan roast these, and I'll serve this with wedges of lemon. I cut my ham steak into 4 pieces. It's already pre-cooked, but I'm going to pan fry it to intensify the flavor and let it caramelize in the pan. And as you can see, I can only fit 2 pieces in my pan at a time, so this is definitely going to feed 4 people. After my steaks were browned, I cleaned out my pan with soap and water, and then I melted some butter. I'm basically just going to make a glaze for these by adding a little brown sugar on top. This will come together quickly. You can make this in the pan before adding the meat if you'd rather. Also, some people add a third ingredient like vinegar or Dijon mustard to make the glaze with. There's lots of good recipes for that. You can also make a cranberry sauce or a berry sauce to go over the top. I'll show one of those later in the video. But this is the way my family likes it. It's a perfect blend of sweet and salty. You have the saltiness of the ham steak with the sweetness of the glaze. As you can see, it makes a very thick glaze, and then I just dip each of the steaks in to coat them. Halfway through cooking my appetizer, I'm going to turn my tomatoes over so that they all cook uniformly and drain just a little bit of the water off. I'm realizing I have some huge tomatoes that are full of a lot of liquid, and I don't want my dip to be too watery. I think next time I would probably use a smaller grape tomato for this. While that's finishing up, I'll toast my bread. I took out a few tomatoes to garnish, and I also took out some tomatoes to cut in half. I think if I would have been using a smaller grape tomato, I wouldn't have needed to do this, but my tomatoes were just so big. So then I stirred everything up and topped with the Kalamata olives that I had been holding back. Then I placed my cherry tomatoes and garnished with fresh basil. I'm really happy with this appetizer. It's visually appealing and it tastes great. I'm glad I chose to add this on for an option. I've never had better asparagus. It's cooked perfect. It's tender but still firm at the same time, and it's amazing what a squeeze of lemon does for the flavor. It just tastes so fresh. I didn't do anything special to these mashed potatoes. I just topped them with dried parsley. But if you want to dress these up, you can top these with butter, Parmesan cheese, and chopped fresh parsley if you have it. And of course, some people like to mix in sour cream and chives. I wanted to quickly show you how to make a blueberry sauce for the ham steaks. My favorite berry for this kind of thing is cranberries, but blueberries are what we have, so you just add a little bit of water and sugar into the pan with the berries and let them come to a boil, and then simmer for a good long while until the sauce thickens up to your desired consistency, and that's pretty much it. It's super easy and full of flavor. But I don't recommend using this on top of the already candied ham steaks. I would either do one or the other, but not both. I have mixed feelings about the dessert. This was my first time eating a dump cake. It's like a very condensed version of a cake and it's super thin. It was still very sweet and I felt like it would have been better with either some whipped cream or ice cream. As is, I would rate this about an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, but I think by adding whipped cream, this would definitely be more in the 9 category, but that's just personal preference. With the cost of groceries being so high, sometimes it's cheaper to buy pre-made items. Here are some options I found at Walmart, and that would still be very delicious. Thank you so much for watching my holiday video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that it inspires you in creating your own Easter celebration. I wish you and your family a joyful and blessed Easter. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.